Yeah, that's to know that.
You have to know that. That's like the pillar one.
What's it, Domino's?
How many are there again?
5.
Yeah.
I had a side with
You know, you have to say the Shahada.
It's a Domino's.
I had to think about that afterwards for a second. Domino's, she's like this.
I would really that you made
I want your man. Who's your man, yo?
My man, buddy, I'm telling you, you gotta take a taste of this one, bro. The guys were yesterday there. This is sweet. This is sweet.
Because once you know the 5
I got it
pillars,
right
it's
on
like,
this
okay,
one.
whatever.
Islam, Morris.
Mom.
Draw already? Oh, it's all good.
What's east?
5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. To His holy prophet. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. If you want to take a grass seat, do the grass seat. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans, it causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Drew Ali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is to the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the Prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam. To the members. No, go ahead.
No, finish.
To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. This is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed that you would be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near. So says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest. The ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Juali. Islam. So out here, the first what we tried to do last 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Tried to do Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had our rain issues. They're calling for some today, but we can see if we could get it in. Get it in before them try a thing. But doesn't look like it's going on. We should be all right.
Did they call for like 4 p.m.?
The readings here. He's been asking
Yeah, something like that. They were saying 4 p.m. or something.
Huh?
Let's go ahead. Say again.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, we're just talking about the weather thing.
No, I was saying that within even the readings that we read, he's been asking for finance,
Yeah.
right? So we've been what's the word? We've been neglecting the very instructions that he's been giving us. Wondering why our stuff hasn't been working. If we give our finance to him, this thing will come together, right? In a sense.
And the whole thing of you know, they have been neglecting to give finance because, you know, all our Moors here, they're putting in their finance, whatever, whether it's dues, whether it's support for something, whether it's you know, buying stuff, whether it's just giving donations. Moors put in their fair share. But exactly, they're starting to realize more and more that, you know, it's what we put in is what we're getting out of it. You know what I mean? The amount of energy you put in, the amount of time you put in, the amount of study you put in, whatever it is that goes in, that's what's going to be coming out on the other side. And I think people get into this thing of the Moorish movement should be giving them something, opposed to them creating the thing that's going to give them what they're looking for, or them using the Moorish movement to create the thing that's going to give them what it is that they're looking for, whatever it is that they're looking for. Huh? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What you could do for you, yeah. It's not what you can do. It's not what the nation could do for you. It's what you can do for the nation. Yeah. And that has to be the mindset with what it is, you know. You have any updates of anything else before we start up? Just the meeting on Friday, that's it? The upcoming...
Just keeping you guys abreast. That doesn't look like Mocha's going to be attending. Doesn't seem like Mocha's going to be attending. Farron or Tesla.
Farron, or you mean
Since everyone here is going on the trip.
No, not Farron.
Sorry. Fortune.
Oh yeah, okay. So Fortune, Tesla, Mocha, okay.
So those three aren't going right now. And then Raheem and his Empress, they say they're trying to come down on the 19th. I don't see how it's going to happen. Though I could see the brother coming down. Maybe if we, you know, I don't know. But I know because I'm in the same industry that I'm probably in the position that he's in to lead like that. Though, I mean, as I said,
I mean, even if it's
whatever. Anyways, that's not important. I'm just letting us know as in part of the group that that's it. What else? We have one more in the park series that hopefully we're going to do when we get back from the trip. And then we've got this investment group that I want to have a meeting with on that last week too in August to sort of finalize everything, get everyone's opinions, whatever. Get what our priority is with the finance. Because if the group decides that they don't want to put the stuff into an attorney, we want to just go for land. Who knows? Maybe we get a 5G. Because remember, we know that the mortgage is a fraud. Yeah. Maybe we find someone give someone $5 grand and we got a mortgage tomorrow. Right? So, anyways, we can think on that.
Yeah.
But I think the first thing is to get some kind of pocket of money in there, right? Or finance? Or not a pocket, something.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it.
It's long.
Oh, and then obviously the autumnal equinox in September.
Going to the Book of Zen by Eric Chalene, The Path to Inner Peace. This is the introduction. What is the sound of one hand clapping? This short question, or koan, sums up much of the philosophy of Zen Buddhism. What is the educated 21st century man or woman to make of this seemingly irrational nonsense? Many claim that Zen is nothing more than an elaborate trick that has been played on a gullible public for almost 1400 years. Others believe that it's the single most important shift in human consciousness. Although Zen is surrounded by paraphernalia of religion, it is clearly not a religion, in the same way as Judaism or Christianity. Christians believe that if they obey the church's command, they will in some future existence be rewarded or punished for their actions in this life. To this essentially passive view of salvation, we must compare the active search of Satori, liberation or enlightenment. That is at the center of Zen. Satori is not a deferred reward. It is a state to be experienced here and now. Nor is Satori the final goal of Zen, because in reality it represents the beginning of Zen life. No book on Zen philosophy can hope to give a map to enlightenment. Each of us has our own personal road to that goal. However, it can relate to the experiences of those who have gone before and can act as a guide of our steps. With the above limitation in mind, I have attempted to present a comprehensive background to Zen Buddhism, tracing its origins in the teachings of the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the root of the flower, and its journey from India to China and Korea, the stem of the flower, before it finally reached Japan, the petals of the flower. In doing so, I have presented the main schools of Zen and introduced the leading personalities sustaining them. After an explanation of Zen principles, the practice, plucking the flower, and the flower blooms, I look at how Zen has influenced Japanese and Western culture, an interaction that is increasingly influential in many fields. And then there were some excerpts. We'll just go through some excerpts from this relative to this path of inner peace. And how this came about was I was at the school, and this like Hindu student, whatever, seen my beads, like, oh, you're a Zen Buddhist or whatever, like, no, but, so I went to the library and then found a book in there on it, and then started going through the book. So, this is The Truth Finder. The founder of Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama, was born a prince, but lived as a pauper in ancient India. Although the faith which the historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, taught has been carried far beyond his homeland, his own ministry never took him more than a few hundred miles from his birthplace at Lumbini, near the borders of modern-day India and Nepal. Over the centuries, many legends have grown around the life of the Buddha. In Zen Buddhism, in particular, the many fantastic tales and miracles ascribed to the Buddha are rejected. The Buddha is seen as an entirely human teacher who was gifted with a unique insight into the nature of reality. The most commonly accepted tradition has it that Siddhartha Gautama was son of Sodona, one of the Rajas or elected rulers of the Shakya warrior clan. A privileged child, he was shielded from human misery until as a young man he saw in turn an elderly man, a sick man, and a corpse. Realizing that humanity's lot was to suffer old age, disease, and death, he determined to devote his life to freeing humankind from the cycle of death and rebirth, so that all can achieve enlightenment, satori or nirvana. Abandoning wealth, status, and family, he first studied the Vedas, the holy texts of Hinduism. Under the foremost scholars of the day, after learning all they knew, he left them, realizing that salvation could not be reached through the intellect alone. He became a yodi ascetic and mortified his body. But after 6 years of privations that almost killed him, he understood that this asceticism would not bring him the answers he sought. Shunned by his former disciples, close to despair, he decided to make one last attempt to gain enlightenment. For 3 days and nights, he meditated under a Bodhi tree, where on the drawing of the final night, he finally achieved enlightenment at the age of 35. After a lifetime of preaching, he died at Kushinagara, now in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Any thoughts on that first section? One thing just in relative to why Noble Drew Ali would have selected certain prophets for us to use as a reference point, you know, knowing that Buddha was privileged and he was born into wealth and whatever, and he decided not even to go into that realm, dealing with the idea of humility and it's not just you getting intellect alone that's gonna give you what it is that you want. There's higher things that you have to be looking for. Him seeing the elderly man, the sick man, and the corpse, and realizing that humanity's person is to suffer and die, and that's it. And then we have Drew Ali telling us in chapter 4 about death and how to deal with death so that we don't get caught up in that whole cycle of seeing it from that perspective and losing the true meaning of what, you know, somebody dies and what that really means in the higher sense of death. Right? So again, that was the chapter called The Truth Finder. Any other thoughts or comments? Straight. Yeah.
I remember when I was with the Muslim.
Yeah.
India was being taught in India. When I checked the dictionary, the meaning of the word Muslim.
Yeah.
Because it was taught in India. So India have a lot to do. That's why I know Budrali tell us how to speak that.
Right. And then one of the Moors had near Cali. Yeah, with the video, yeah. Right, so they had some restaurant, fezzed up or whatever like that, and then the owner or whoever, somebody in there, came there and started talking to them about the Mauryan dynasty and how, you know, the impact of the Mauryan dynasty throughout the world and all this or whatever like that, just because they knew that they were Moors, that triggered a Hindu to talk to them about going back to the same thing. We're looking at you know, America, and we're thinking of, you know, Moorish history here, but once you go anywhere, it's there too. You know what I mean? And then the people there hold it in some high regard when they start talking about Moorish history. Right? Turning the wheel of the law. The Buddha's most profound teachings are encapsulated in the simplest of statements: the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. Their study and practice over the past 2.5 millennia have given rise to some of the world's most complex philosophical systems and ritual practices. Although he himself had attained enlightenment, the historical Buddha decided to maintain in the world and devote his life to teaching. In his first sermon in Varanasi in northern India, he expounded the doctrine of the Four Noble Truths. Life is suffering. Suffering is caused by selfish craving. Selfish craving can be overcome. Follow the Eightfold Noble Path. This short statement encapsulates the Buddhist philosophy. The world is transient, and although some things within it are pleasurable, they too must pass. Transience leads to suffering. Our suffering, therefore, is not only caused externally by agents such as disease, famine, and death, but also internally by our own slavish pursuit of material and physical happiness. Our belief that we have an immutable ego or personality, a soul, keeps us prisoners of our desires, which when disappointed leads to pain and sorrow. To overcome these illusions, the Buddha taught his disciples to follow the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path consists of correct thought, correct action, correct effort, correct speech, correct livelihood, correct attention, correct concentration, correct understanding. The Eightfold Noble Path is also known as the middle way because it rejects all extremes of behavior. The path embodies both moral injunctions such as correct speech, not telling lies or spreading gossip, and correct livelihood, not pursuing an occupation that will do harm to other living beings. It also includes teachings on how to pursue enlightenment through study and meditation. Finally, the Buddha enjoined his disciples to find comfort in the three refuges of the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, the Sangha, the community of believers. In early Buddhism, it was taught that only ordained monks and nuns of the Sangha could achieve enlightenment. But in subsequent interpretations of Buddhism, including Zen, laymen and women were also believed to be able to achieve enlightenment while still in the temporal world. So again, the Four Noble Truths: life is suffering. Suffering is caused by selfish craving. Selfish craving can be overcome. Follow the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path: correct thought, correct action, correct effort, correct speech, correct livelihood, correct attention, correct concentration, correct understanding. One of the things with the Eightfold Path is the whole idea of the positive thoughts creating whatever you want. You know what I mean? So everything being correct, just like with the principles of Ma'at. Everything being, I shall do this, I shall do that, I shall do this, I shall do that. There's no guessing who should do it. You're the one that's taking the responsibility, so that whatever the outcome it is that you want is going to manifest through whatever you have in your thought. So when they have the Eightfold Noble Path, and then we think about the Fibonacci and the numbers related to that, and then 8 being infinity, and we're talking about the Noble Path, and then the nobles being the Moors, the path going back to the Prince of Peace, and the path being a straight line, and any little inch you're off of that path, you're completely off of wherever you're supposed to be going to, right? It also being the Eightfold Path, also being known as the middle way, and you have this they had there was some stone or something. the Eightfold Path is also known as the middle way. So I was looking at, they had this stone. There was this like, some big boulder or whatever like that. And then in the middle of it, it was split in the middle. Right? But it was split like perfect or whatever like that. And they're trying to figure out, you know, did it get cut? Did something cut it? Is it a natural occurrence? Because I think it was like it was near water or something. So they're saying maybe water was rushing through it or something like that. Water probably cut it or whatever like that. But there was this fascination about this big boulder that had just split right down the middle in it. That was precise. Like they measured both sides. Both sides were like the same size and all that, right? And then speaking about that, there's you could look up the mysterious pentagram that somebody found while they were on Google Earth. And in Kazakhstan or somewhere, there's this big pentagram in a circle that you could see from Google Earth. And it's in some far off section of the country or whatever like that, where nobody lives there, nobody doesn't do anything there, but there's this huge 5-point star in a circle. Just there, the mysterious pentagram it's called.
That's like my cousin tripped out when he moved into his place, went to the basement, and it's not until I came over there he noticed a green star or green pentagram in the basement.
Oh yeah, you're talking, yeah.
He still mentions it to this day.
Yeah, but they're probably doing some rituals down there. It's the basement? I don't know.
Right?
Get the sage going down there. Huh? Yeah. Right. Toward the one-pointed mind. Bodhidharma, founder of Zen Buddhism, brought a new form of meditative Buddhism from India to China. After the historical Buddha, one figure towers above all others in the development of Zen Buddhism, the wandering Indian monk, Bodhidharma, known as Tamo in China and Daruma in Japan. According to the tradition, he was both the 28th Indian patriarch and the first Chinese patriarch of Chan. He left India in 517 and arrived in southern China 520 after a long perilous journey. Little is actually known about his life, but a rich mythology of tales chronicles his arrival and stay in China. Dhyana, which means meditation or absorption, is not a purely Buddhist concept. The term occurs in the Upanishads, the holy text of Hinduism, and it is also the seventh limb of the Ashtanga, or Raja Yoga. In Hinduism, Dhanya denotes both the practice of meditation and the higher state of consciousness that precedes samadhi, or final liberation from rebirth. In Buddhism, dhyana is also known as jhana, an 8-stage process which is intended to draw the senses from all directions so that the seeker may achieve one-point concentration. The four lower jhanas are meditations on forms, and the 4 higher jhanas proceed to meditations on the formless. Jhana is not an end in itself, but an impermanent state. Although they are profoundly powerful experiences in themselves, they can only act as a means of achieving the tranquility and insight needed to gain enlightenment. The successors of Bodhidharma and Chinese patriarchs developed dhyana into Chan Buddhism, integrating it with the native Taoist philosophy of Laozi. It was taken to Korea with other forms of Chinese Buddhism, where it was known as Sun, and finally reached Japan in the 7th century. Huh?
Stop.
Yeah. 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 You know, it reached its yeah. 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 Strange words, extraordinary actions. One of the outstanding representatives of the Southern school, Matsu, taught the Chan of sudden enlightenment. Strange words, extraordinary actions sums up the teaching style of Masu Sao Yi, the third generation leader of Huineng's Southern School of Chan. A man of fearsome presence, he became the model for later Zen masters. Matsu was the first Chan master to use the shout ho and the stick, or kyosaku in Japanese, as a routine part of his teaching style. The ear-splitting ho not only serves to awaken the student to enlightenment at a critical moment, but also represents the wordless transmission of Dharma between master and pupil. Matsu's violent methods did not end with a blow from a stick. He concluded one exchange with his successor, Pai Chang, by pulling the younger monk's nose so hard that he yelled out in pain. However, the experience, we are told, led to Pai Chang's instant enlightenment. Masu was a pupil of Nan Hui. One day when Matsu was engaged in zazen, sitting meditation, Yan Hui asked him what he was doing. "I wish to become a Buddha," was Masu's reply. Na Hui began to rub a tile together with a stone. When Ma Hui asked what he was doing, he replied, "I am making a mirror from this tile." Masu asked, "How can you make a mirror from tile?" The teacher replied, "How can you become a Buddha through zazen?" Masu's teaching is summarized in words. Apart from the mind, there is no Buddha. Apart from the Buddha, there is no mind. Enlightenment is not the fruit of years of meditation and study, but the realization of an instant, Masu had a number of outstanding followers. His own successor, Pai Chang, established the monastic rule that is still in use today. Matsu's line ended with Chao Cho, who created several famous koans, but did not find a successor. From then on, the succession of the Southern School of Enlightenment would be taken over by another extraordinary Chan master, Lin Chi. Peace, Mars.
Lin what?
Lin Chi.
Chi?
Yeah. Lin Chi. With this one we have by pulling the younger monk's nose so hard that he yelled out in pain. However, the experience, we are told, led to Pai Chang's instant enlightenment. Peace, Mars. Right? It led to the instant enlightenment. And then that goes back into the whole thing with the discipline and when you might have been doing some whatever and you get the neck back slap or whatever, or you get the fucking flick and then you come back to your senses. Right? Yeah, right? You shock you back into reality and you know at that point that, oh yeah.
That's like the other day I was at work.
Hard reset.
The reset.
So usually on like before they put the plate over the plugs, out like on like new construction. I'm there, you know, plastering, whatever. And I moved, for some reason I moved the thing, forgetting that it might be live, right? So I got the little shock, like that little, you know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I got the little shock and it made me realize, yo, what am I doing? Like I couldn't do it myself. I got that little, you know, that little shock?
Not funny, but like.
Yeah. It's not funny, but it's
It's
yeah.
like a warning.
Yeah.
Really? It's like, no.
It's not time. It's not time yet. It's not time yet. Yeah, not the double. Not the double. Just be yourself. A master of the Southern School of Sudden Enlightenment, Lin Chi, is also honored as the founder of Japan's Rinzai Shuzen. What is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West? On asking this question, the abbot hit him in the head with a stick. Despondent and confused, he sought the aid of another Chan master, Ta Yu. When he heard Lin Chi's story, Ta Yu said, "How kind Huang Po is. He is only trying to help you." At these words, Lin Chi experienced a profound awakening and began jumping for joy, saying, "There is nothing to Hang Po's Chan. It's really very simple." Lin Chi then returned to Hang Po, who tested him in his newly found understanding. Lin Chi hit his master and let out a great shout of "Ho!" The abbot pretended to be angry, but instead of having Lin Chi ejected from the monastery, he accepted him as his disciple. Lin Chi's Chan was an experience to be lived on a daily basis. He advised his students to see beyond the snares of blind desire and to embrace the vision that being ordinary will bring. When it is time to dress, get dressed. When you must walk, walk. Do not concern yourself with becoming a Buddha unless you are being yourself. Though the fool may laugh at you, the wise man will understand. A strong advocate of Ho and Kyosaku's school of Chan, Lin Chi, when asked a metaphysical question, was most likely to reply with a shout or a well-aimed blow. This student could not respond by falling back on traditional Buddhist learning. However, if they were sincere, they were forced into new ways of thinking. Lin Chi's line spawned one or two major schools of Zen Buddhism in Japan, the Rinzai Chu. Lin Chi's emphasis on vision through ordinary living was central both to his philosophy and more general Zen thought. Art, and especially art taking ordinary things and the nature world as its subject, is often considered a means of attaining insight. So there's because remember we did the shroom presentations a few weeks ago. So there's this art, this art thing with shrooms or whatever, where they go into the shroom and then they draw stuff in nature, and then they come out of it and then look at the thing to see what messages are in the nature, right? So like there's some of them where you know that they were on some type of whatever based on the thing that they drew or whatever. So there was one thing where there was it was like a stream or something like that, a stream with a rock in it, and there was like some rocks, but because of, you know, rocks behind one another or whatever, it gives a different purview or whatever. And then looking at the picture, you know that they saw a guy leaning down on the thing like this or whatever like that, right? Just how the rocks look, right? With a man leaning down, like hand on his head and all that stuff. The back was mountains or whatever, but it was trees and crazy. So this idea of the ordinary bringing enlightenment, you know what I mean? And going back to the thing with the hallucinogens and all that stuff, that once you're in this certain mindset, you know, take advantage of the things that you see that you might not consider as being, you know, able to teach you something. You know what I mean? in the higher realms, an ant walking is gonna teach you something profound. You know what I mean? Spider making the web is gonna teach you something crazy. You know. And then and again, going back to the thing about there is nothing to hang post Tran. It is very simple that the student he advised his students to see beyond the snares of blind desire and to embrace the vision that being ordinary will bring. When it is time to dress, get dressed. When you must walk, walk. Do not concern yourself with becoming a Buddha, just be yourself. And then going back to Drew Ali telling more, just be their self, and all that, right? And again, going back to the thing of why is it that he had certain prophets listed as the prophets. You said ETC, but there are specific ones that he went to. You know what I mean? So there's a book called I think 16 Crucified Saviors, and it just goes through history of all different people in the world that were considered prophets or whatever like that, and it's supposed to be like a challenging Christianity book, saying Jesus is the only one or whatever like that, and they're going through all these different prophets in all different countries or whatever, all different nations that have a prophet that you probably never even heard of or whatever the case is. Any other thoughts or anything else to share? That's good. The great reformer, the great master Hakuin, reformed the Rinzai Shu and began the codification of the Koan into a teaching method. The man who revitalized the Rinzai Shu and opened Zen teachings to Japan's emerging middle class during the Edo period was Hakuin Ekaku. Despite the opposition of his parents, he became a monk at the age of 15. While he was studying, he was deeply disturbed by the story of the murder of the Chan master. Yen Chuan, who had let out a great cry of anguish as he died, he persevered, however, and after 4 years of work on the koan of Joshu's dog, he had an experience which he himself took to be the final enlightenment, or satori. He described it as freezing in an ice field thousands of leagues wide and within a sense of utmost clarity. Blinded by his pride, Hakuin asked his abbot to confirm his enlightenment, but the latter refused to do so. Hakuin went to another master, but he too was skeptical. He preserved the true illumination. He persevered, and true illumination came to him when he was out begging for alms. Stopping in front of a house, he did not hear the occupant, an old woman, say she had nothing for him. Incensed that he was still standing there, the old woman struck Hakuin a fierce blow, knocking him senseless. When he awoke, his mind was clear, and he understood the meaning of Yuan Tu's cry. Yao Tu is fit, strong, and well, he said. Haiku's experience of enlightenment showed that it is not a single event that completed Zen's training, but that it can be experienced several times, each time deepening the student's understanding. After a bout of illness, Hakuin began his own career as a teacher. A man of boundless energy, even in old age, he reformed the monastic rule that it followed in Rizin temples to the present day. He created several well-known koans, including the famous "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" and his heirs went on to codify the grade to codify and grade the existing koans. Hakuin is also acknowledged to be one of Japan's leading Zen calligraphers, painters, and poets. Hakuin believed that he had attained enlightenment inspired by his work on the koan of Joshu's dog. His abbot refused to confirm this until he experienced true illumination. Right, and again going back to where did it go? Going back to this idea of being struck a force blow, and we think about Noble Drawley making reference to, if you can't flee, drop the world on them, and then that blow to them supposed to bring them to enlightenment, whether it's not mess with you anymore or whatever like that, whether it's, you know, recognizing their errors and correcting their self or whatever, right? Going back again to, you know, getting your ass bust as a child for doing something and you probably didn't do that again or whatever, when you got the good bust ass, you know. Right? You become enlightened. You know, you realize that's not the way. Right? That was the great reformer. Right. When is a chair not a chair? Nothing we can see, hear, or touch in the world has any permanent existence. It will, of necessity, pass away. One of the central concepts in Buddhism is emptiness, which states that all forms or appearances in the universe are empty. To explain what this means, let us take a common object such as a chair. The common sense view of the phenomenal world, the world of things and events that makes up that what we observe, what we call observable reality, is that all objects have permanent and unique natures. So common sense says a chair is always a chair. However, if we take a larger and larger microscopes to examine our chair, the greater the magnification, the less separate it becomes from its surroundings. At the molecular level, the boundaries of the chair, the air around it, and the person sitting on it are blurred. We cannot tell where one begins and the others end. At the atomic level, matter looks like solar systems, with vast empty gulfs separating the spinning electrons orbiting the atomic nuclei. At the subatomic level, distinctions between matter and energy are themselves abolished. Particles, which sometimes behave like minute packets of matter and at other like oscillating waves, link in and out of existence. Even on the macrocosmic level of everyday life. However, a chair is not always a chair. If you were to look at a chair in time, you would see that it was once a piece of wood from a tree. Where is the tree? Where in the tree is the chair that will be made from it? During its existence, wear and tear on the chair will change its appearance and structure, losing some of its wood and gaining deposits of dirt. In time, the chair will break, the wood will decay, rot, and finally fall to dust. The chair then was a very temporary manifestation, and its materials in themselves never possessed any innate chairness. Our failure to accept the idea that all things are empty and transient is the main cause of human suffering. The intellectual understanding of emptiness is a relatively straightforward exercise, but the aim of Zen training is to make someone both know and personally experience emptiness. Right, and going back to the hallucinogens, and that's probably the emptiest you're gonna feel. realizing that we think we're something until you realize you're nothing. Until you realize that, well, the universe is that big or whatever, and we're on Earth, which is like a speck in the universe, and then we're on a speck, which is on a speck. But a chair is not a chair. Even on the macrocosmic level of everyday life, if we were to look at a chair in time, we would see that it was once a piece of wood from a tree. Where in the tree is the chair that was made from it? Right? Where in the tree is the chair that was made from the tree? Maybe. Yeah, right? Right? During its existence, wear and tear on the chair will change its appearance and structure, losing some of its wood, gaining the polish of dirt. In time, the chair will break, the wood will decay, rot, and finally fall to dust. Dapa. Dapa. Oh, easy.
That's like I was touching.
Right on time, huh? When is a chair not a chair? This guy. A chair is not a chair when you want to sit. What you saying, ready?
I was going to say, to add on to that, that saying there, it's like the same thing with like destiny. I was reading the quote the other day. It says, "Destiny laughs at man's plans." So you can interpret that like,
yeah,
like the chair never knew it was going to be a chair, Yeah. Tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that.
Yeah. The tree had no idea. No idea. Right, and then that goes back to the thing with Drew Ali talking about did the cow know that it was going to be used for food or whatever like that? Did the plant know that it's going to be eaten by the cow? Yeah.
So they don't want you to.
Yeah. Buddha is mind. Mind is Buddha. The human personality itself, the ego to which Westerners cling to so strong, is also an illusion. If an inanimate object, such as a chair, is empty of form, then we, who are forever changing from moment to moment, both physically and mentally, in time and space, are even less likely to possess a permanent, immoral soul or personality. In the Heart Sutra, the Buddha Avalokiteshvara sees that the 5 conditions or skandhas that constitute all human beings, form, sensation, mental activity, perception, and consciousness, are equally empty. This is a restatement of the Buddha's doctrine of Anatman, or no self, and explains why, when the Emperor Wu asks Bodhidharma, "Who is standing before me?" the monk replied, "I do not know." Emptiness, however, is not synonymous with the void. Buddhism is not a nihilistic religion that leaves men and women stranded on the edge of the abyss in hopeless absurdity. There is an underlying principle in the universe. Although it is devoid of form, this concept, which comes closest in Buddhism to the ideas of the Christian soul, the Holy Spirit, and God, is Buddha nature, Buddhata in Sanskrit, and Busho in Japanese. Buddha nature is neither neutral nor amoral, but embodies the virtues of compassion and wisdom. When the Empress Wu asked the third patriarch of the Huanyan school of Buddhism, Fa Sang, to explain Buddha nature, he brought with him a statue of a lion made of pure gold. The lion, he explained, represented the phenomenal world that we all experience, but the gold form which it was cast was the underlying principle, Buddha nature, which has no form of its own. The Mahayana tradition, which includes Zen, teaches that all beings are composed of Buddha nature. Thus all of us have the same access to enlightenment, no matter who we are or what spiritual state we are in. Only the fog created by our own illusions prevents us from realizing it. Read that one again. All beings are composed of Buddha nature. Thus all of us have the same access to enlightenment, no matter who we are or what spiritual state we are in. Only the fog created by our own illusions prevents us from realizing it. I vow to save the countless sentient beings. The highest attainment in Mahayana Buddhism is that of the Bodhisattva, who vows to free all sentient beings. The accusation that Buddhists withdraw from the world selfishly to pursue their own liberation has often been made. In the Hinayana Theravada tradition, there can only be one Buddha in each historical cycle, and he has already appeared in the shape of Siddhartha Gautama. The highest level the disciple can aspire is that of Arhat, which precedes full Buddhahood. For the followers of the Mahayana tradition, this is an incomplete understanding of the Buddha's teaching, and indeed a limited form of Buddhism. They aspire instead to the state of Bodhisattva, which can be translated to enlightenment being. The Bodhisattva consciously turns away from his own liberation or nirvana, which is the goal of the Arhat, and remains in the world to devote his or her life to helping others achieve enlightenment. Through practice of the 6 perfections, generosity, morality, patience, effort, meditation, and wisdom, they seek to unite compassion and wisdom. The Bodhisattva ideal is at the heart of all Zen practice and is symbolized by the recitation of the 4 great vows at the end of all zazen or sitting meditation practice. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Passions are countless. I vow to eradicate them all. Dharma gates are numberless. I vow to enter them all. The way of the Buddha is without compare. I vow to realize it. There are different forms of bodhisattvas. Anyone taking the bodhisattva vow and who is dedicated his life to saving others is considered to be a bodhisattva. But there are also celestial bodhisattvas. One of the most popular in East Asia is Avalokiteshvara, he or she who hears the sound of the world. In China and Japan, Avalokiteshvara, who represents the ideal of compassion, takes female form. Alright, so through practice of the 6 perfections, generosity, morality, patience, effort, meditation, and wisdom. The 6 perfections: generosity, morality, patience, effort, meditation, and wisdom. And the 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Passions are countless. I vow to eradicate them all. Dharma gates are numberless. I vow to enter them all. The way of the Buddha is without compare. I vow to realize it. What's up, y'all? Yo, we also have some samosas over here and sandwiches if anybody wants something that's back there. Into the light. Enlightenment is the aim of Zen, but it is not its end game, rather the beginning of a new life. Enlightenment can be triggered by a number of agents. These include sudden external stimuli, a cawing crow, the ringing of a bell, or a sharp blow to the head, as well as the gradual internal process of sitting meditation. Certain schools, notably Korean Sun, teach that the insight gained from a sudden experience must be deepened gradually through Zazen. For several non-Zen Buddhist schools, enlightenment is like the Christian paradise, a future reward for a life well lived. But in Zen, Satori is something to be experienced in the present. Also known as the Great Death, enlightenment is not the end game of Zen, but rather an awakening to our own and the universe's true nature, or Buddha nature, and the beginning of a new, richer kind of life. The popular image of enlightenment is that of a blissful but essentially passive state. But scientific evidence gathered on people in meditative states reveals that their brains, while at peace, are totally alert and alive. Zen recognizes that there is more than one kind of enlightenment experience, which the student is while the student is meditating, he or she may experience power of mind, an essentially positive state in which the mind balances itself, bringing great joy and energy. Some people that some people believe that Joriki gives access to supernatural powers, such as levitation and telepathy. Joriki, however, is merely a stage toward enlightenment. Less desirable are devil phenomena, hallucinations, which, though harmless, can be disturbing. Again, the sitter is instructed to ignore them. The first experience of enlightenment is known as Kensho, seeing nature, and is the prelude to future experiences, which will deepen the seeker's understanding. The ultimate experience of Satori is called Mujodo no Tegen, the embodiment of the unsurpassable way, which is the permanent experience of Satori during one's earthly life. A monkey offers a peach, a symbol of sexual enjoyment, to a devotee who contemplates the temptation. This painting is meant to be upon the pipala, or leaf of the Bodhi tree, beneath which Buddha attained enlightenment. Right, so the idea of enlightenment is getting it in the moment. Getting in the moment that the enlightenment is received or manifest. There's not seeking towards enlightenment. Enlightenment's in the now. Right? Knowing thyself is in the now. It's not where leading toward know thyself. Know thyself is when you know. Right? Being brought into the marvelous light. Out of darkness into the marvelous light. The moment that you realize you're not in darkness, you're in the light. It's not something you're moving towards. If you can see the light, you're probably already in it. Right? Any other thoughts? Breaking the chain of cause and effect. Through delusion, we increase our karmic load, which keeps us trapped in the world of appearance. The doctrine of karma, the law of cause and effect, is a well-known feature of Eastern religions. In Hinduism, the result of evil actions is impediment of our social progress in future lives. If our karmic load is great, we risk being reborn as animals or in one of the many hells. In Buddhism, there is no soul to tarnish. The effect of our evil deeds simply holds us back from realizing our Buddha nature. Greed, lust, and anger, sins in the Christian faith, are seen in Buddhism as errors keeping us trapped in the phenomenal world. But good actions are also sometimes to be avoided because they too tie us to the world. The emphasis on Zen is not the action itself, but the intention behind it. Only actions or intentions free from desire, hate, and delusion have no karmic consequences. Once the student of Zen has taken the Bodhisattva vows, he follows the 10 grave precepts, which govern his behavior. Despite their superficial similarity, these are not the 10 commandments of Mosaic law. To disobey them is not a sin, but an act of ignorance that will increase an individual's karmic load. The precepts are a stage on the path to realizing our Buddha nature by reducing our karmic encumbrance. Once enlightened, we follow them not only out of duty, but spontaneously. There is no inevitability or predestination in the Buddhist doctrine of karma. As once enlightened, we break the chains of cause and effect. The 10 grave precepts. I vow not to kill. I vow not to steal. I vow not to encourage in damaging sexual behavior. I vow not to lie. I vow not to use intoxicating substances. I vow not to speak of the faults of others. I vow not to proud myself and defame others. I vow not to be reluctant in keeping others. I vow not to be reluctant in helping others find enlightenment. I vow not to give away to anger. I vow not to defame the 3 treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The emphasis in Zen is not the action itself, but the intention behind it. Only actions or intentions free from desire, hate, and delusion have no karmic consequences. And again, with when we were talking about the 42 laws of Ma'at, and saying that I shall not do this and I shall not do that, and then the Zen teachings with the 10 grave precepts is that I vow not to do whatever, I vow not to do this, which is putting it on you, that you're not going to do this. And by you putting that out there and then you go against it, then that's how you get the karmic debt, right? Because you said to yourself that you weren't going to. You know what I mean? Same thing with I proclaim my nationality. There's somebody else doing it. So I proclaim my nationality, and then you're going to go do some Negro stuff. Then whatever you get, you're going to get, because you put it out into the universe that you're not going to engage in certain things, right? Zen emphasizes intention rather than action, meaning that the acts of meditation and contemplation are themselves more important than their objects. So it's about the intent behind what you do. Yeah, you can hold that door for that individual with the bags. But if you're going to be complaining about, well, why didn't they say thank you and all that stuff after, then what are you holding doors for? You're better off would have just left them and not even be hit with it after, right? Is that so? Like the parables of Jesus, short, seemingly simple stories convey the deepest and most complex meanings. Chan and Zen have little time for scriptures and learn commentaries. Both traditions are opposed to book learning and have no patience for the reverence of Holy Writ. However, the Zen master, or Roshi, needs material to illustrate his lessons. Over the centuries, a corpus of Zen stories has emerged, which of them have made their way into anthologies such as the Shiseksu collection of stone and sand. This was compiled by Rinzai Shu monk Ichien, also known as Dokyo, and is still used for training today. The stories are usually short and illuminate how a follower of Zen should behave in the world. The themes of Zen stories come from a variety of sources. Events from the life of the historical Buddha are common, but mostly they are taken from the lives of the Chinese patriarchs and Zen masters. A Japanese favorite is the life of the Hakuin, the 18th century monk reformer. Is that so? Hakuin had a reputation among his neighbors of living a pure life. A beautiful girl whose parents owned a shop lived nearby. One day her parents discovered that she was pregnant. They were furious, and when they asked her who the father was, she named Hakuin. The angry parents immediately went to see the monk to confront him. He listened patiently, and the only thing he said was, "Is that so?" After the child was born, the parents gave him to his putative father. Hakuin took the baby in and cared for him as best as he could. Although his reputation had been ruined, he did not seem to mind. A year went by, and the girl could not stand it any longer. She admitted that the father was not Hakuin, but a young man from the town. The parents immediately went to Hakuin to beg his pardon and retrieved the child. Hakuin gave them the child. Again, his only words were, "Is that so?" Bad man, yo. That's the new one. Is that so? Is that so? Yo, no other. Is that so? Nothing. All right, fine. Yo, take him in. Take care of him for a year and all that. Oh, it's not yours. We're sorry. Is that so? Hakuin's equanimity extended to upholding the honor of the local girl who accused him of fathering her child. Crazy.
God is gold, bro. Is that so? Can you come back later? Is that so?
Yeah. Is that so? That is a wake-up call. First, empty your cup. The contents of Zen stories are as old as Buddhism itself, and at the same time highly contemporary, for they are still being written. Zen stories deal with a variety of themes, including some of which might not appear in the anthologies of some religions, such as sex. A cup of tea, Nanin was a Zen master of Japan's Meiji period. One day he had an interview with a university professor who was interested in learning about Zen. As is the custom in Japan, Nanin offered his guest a cup of green tea. He poured his visitor a full cup, but continued pouring so that the cup overflowed. The professor cried out, "It's full! No more will go in." Nanin set the pot down and said, "Like this cup, your mind is full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen if you do not first empty your cup?" The Black-Nosed Buddha. A nun made a statue of the Buddha and covered it with gold leaf. Wherever she went, she carried her Buddha with her. One day she stopped at the country temple where there were several Buddhas, each in its own niche. The nun wanted to offer incense to her Buddha alone, so she made a funnel that directed the incense smoke to her statue. As a result, the Buddha's nose became blackened with soot, making it particularly ugly. No loving kindness. For 20 years, an old Chinese woman had supported a Chan monk. She had built a hut for him and fed him as he meditated. One day she decided to test him to see how far he had progressed. She asked one of the prettiest village girls to go and embrace him and asked him what now. The girl did exactly as she was told, entering his hut and caressing him. "What will you do now?" she said. The monk replied frostily, "An old tree grows old on a cold winter rock. Nowhere is there any warmth." The girl reported what had taken place to the old woman. The old woman was furious. "To think that I have fed him for 20 years," she said. "She showed no consideration for your need, spared no effort to explain your condition. He did not have to show passion, but he should have shown some compassion." She immediately went to the hut and after evicting the monk, burned it to the ground. The 10 Bulls. A defining characteristic of Zen is its use of the pictorial arts to convey its message in a simple and immediate fashion. In addition to the koans, the teachings contained in the stories about the patriarch, Zen makes us use of the immediacy of the pictorial arts to convey the message. The 10 Bulls is a series of paintings of the Song dynasty. The sequence represents the various stages of Zen life, using the metaphor of a boy who goes in search of his lost bull. The bull represents Buddha nature, and the boy the human being. In the first part of the sequence, the boy and the bull are separate entities, but as the series progresses, they become one. The search for the bull. The bull has been lost, symbolic of the loss of spirituality. Because of his separation from the Buddha nature and the delusion caused by his senses, the boy cannot find the bull. Discovering the footprints. Despite his own confusion, the boy discovers the bull's footprints with help of the scriptures, sutras. Perceiving the bull. The boy's true nature is open through sound. He sees into the origins of things, and his senses are calmed and become harmonious. Catching the bull. The boy has caught the bull, but it is difficult to control and wants to return to the pastures it found. The boy has to assert control by being strict, taming the bull. At length, the bull comes under control, and the boy can lead him without trouble. Riding the bull home. The struggle is over. The boy is transcended again. The boy has transcended gain and loss. He rides on the back of the now tamed bull, playing his flute. His heart is filled with incomparable joy. The bull is one of the most common and useful domestic animals in China. And its symbolic and practical importance could have been immediately apparent in Kakuan's audience. The series is molded on an earlier Taoist 8-bull series, but Kakuan's 10 bulls are purely Zen. The bull transcended. The boy is alone. He no longer sees the bull as separate from himself and recognizes the bull as a symbol that he no longer needs. He is now whole and at peace. Both bull and self transcend. Both the boy and the bull have vanished, and not even the concept of holiness remains. In this empty state, the fullness of life can be experienced. Reaching the source, the boy remains in the immovable mind. He perceives the world as it is, in constant flux. Rivers flow, birds fly, trees blossom, but he himself is beyond change. In the world, the boy returns to the world as a free man who has transcended duality. He does everything with the whole of himself because he has nothing to gain or lose. He manifests the Bodhisattva ideal and forgoes liberation to help others.
I was like, you talk about the sound. Use the sound really like.
You
mentioned something about there using sound to get away from the floor or something. Somebody mentioned something to do with sound. Anyway, the point that I was going to make was, I know someone that was disabled that used the sound to help them start walking again.
Yeah. Or they use the sound?
Yeah,
they use sound? Yeah.
Like different frequencies and like the sound to help her walk.
For real.
She's like paralyzed from there's some surgery with her and they paralyzed her.
Yeah, yeah.
Surgery.
Yeah.
She's been using sound to help her
get her
yeah.
her walking back.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Huh?
I mean, whatever frequency, the hertz that they're using.
Yeah.
But now she can literally walk like very slow. Before, months prior, she wasn't like able to.
But she's doing she's like moving now. She's not paralyzing. That's crazy. That's crazy. The sound of one hand clapping, the gateless gate. Master Makure had a young novice in his charge named Toyo, who was 12 years old. Toyo saw the older students visit Makure for Sanzen, and he too wished to receive training. His master told him he was too young, but the boy was so insistent that Makure finally asked him, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Toyo went back to his room and through the window heard a geisha playing the samshin, a stringed instrument like a banjo. He went back to Makure and gave the music the geisha had played as the answer. Makure quickly reprimanded him. No, he said, that will never do. Tokoyo went back to his room and considered and rejected one sound after another. The sound of dripping water, the wind, the cry of an owl, all the sounds he could come up with, Makure turned down. Finally, Tokoyo entered true meditation and transcended all sounds. I could collect no more sounds, he told Makure, so I reached the soundless sound. He had heard the sound of one hand clapping. soundless sound. Water buffalo passes through the enclosure. Master Goso said, "It is like when a water buffalo leaves the safety of its enclosure to the edge of a cliff over an abyss. His horns, head, and hoofs pass through, but why can't his tail?" Wu Man commented, "If anyone can open one eye at this point and utter a single word of Zen, he is qualified to repay the 4 gratifications and save the numberless sentient beings. But if he cannot utter a word of Zen at this time, he should turn back to his tail." He then added the verse, "If the buffalo runs, he will fall into the abyss. If he returns, he will be butchered. The little tail is a very strange thing." When my notes were assembled, I was surprised to find that there were 48 koans, each with a commentary and verse. Although they were not given in any particular order, I have called the collection the Gateless Gate for students to read as a guide. The first koan is the collection informally known as Joshu's Dog, which is given often to beginners as the first koan. The monk asked Joshu, "Does a dog have a Buddha nature?" Joshu exclaimed, "Mu." Mu in Chinese means nothing or no. Wu Men added a prose, commentary, and a verse. Has a dog got a Buddha nature? This is the most serious question of all. If you say yes or no, you lose your own Buddha nature. This is the barrier of Zen. If you pass through it, you will see Joshu face to face. Then you can work hand in hand with the whole line of patriarchs. If you want to pass this barrier, you must work through every bone of your body, through every pore of your skin, filled with this question: what is Mu? And carry it day and night. Do not believe that this is the common negative meaning nothing. It is not nothingness to opposite of existence. If you really want to pass this barrier, you should feel like drinking a hot iron ball that you can neither swallow nor spit out. Koans make up the bulk of training in Kana Zen, which is practiced by Rinzai Shu. The Soto Shu also uses koans, but far more sparingly. Koans are set by the Roshi to prevent mind wandering. Many Zen students will focus upon koans not only during meditation but also during their daily tasks. For 400 years, koans were part of Zen training, but their use was only formalized in the 18th century by Rinzai Shu, master and reformer, Hai-Kyun Ekaku, and his successors. They devised a method of teaching the koans and divided them into the following 5 categories. Ultimate reality. These are intended to create an awareness of ultimate reality or Buddha nature. Working through these, the student may experience Kenshu. Support. Although Buddha nature is undifferentiated, these aim at giving the student the ability to discern distinction within non-distinction. Considering words. These consist of the difficult sayings of the patriarchs and create an awareness of their deep meaning. Difficult. These are the most difficult koans to pass through. The water buffalo is one of the nano koan series. And the final series of koan, 5 ranks, when the other 4 have been worked out, these test and deepen the individual insight. And then this is some of the daily tasks of the monks that study Zen. 4 a.m. Wake up. 4:30 a.m. Zazen and Kinkin. 6:30 a.m. Chanting. 7 a.m. Morning meal. 7:30 a.m. Cleaning. 8 to 11:30 a.m. Zanzen and Kinkin. 11:30 a.m. Chanting. 11:45 a.m. Noon meal. 1 p.m. Rest. 2 p.m. Zazen. 2:30 p.m. Lecture. 3:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Zazen.